Well, Bannon, welcome to 20 something. I'm so grateful that you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm seriously so stoked. I've known Bannon since we were in college.
Yep.
That's crazy. But for the person who's joining us today, what are some of the key takeaways that they're going to have based on our conversation?
Probably three main things. First and foremost, dealing with grief. Second, having intentional relationships. And third, being vulnerable.
Man, those three things are all things that I think every single person needs and like make such a huge impact on their life. So I'm excited. Let's get into it. Wait, are we recording? Hey, I'm Olivia and welcome back to 20 something. Today's episode is a powerful reminder that you really never know what someone is going through. My friend Bannon opens up about losing a close friend to suicide and how that experience really changed the way that he lives, connects, and shows up for others. If you've ever felt alone, overwhelmed, or unsure how to help someone else, this episode will definitely mean a lot to you. His story is a reminder that we rarely see the battles others are fighting, and that service really can be one of the most healing things that we do. If you or someone that you know or someone that you love may be struggling, please know that you're not alone. We will include support resources in the description of this episode. As always, I am so grateful that you're here. This is 20 something. So Bannon, we met in college, which is crazy. That was like 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
That just really dates us. It's fine. But to start off, can you just tell the listener a little bit about what you were like in college and even your life leading a little bit up to that?
Yeah. Well, you could probably touch on how I was in college more than I could because I feel like you saw like the outside of me. But I don't know. So I'm born and raised in San Diego, California, and then I came up to Utah State for track and field.
Go Aggies.
Did not know Did not know that Utah State existed, honestly,
Me neither.
until my senior year when I was getting recruited
For sports.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always wanted to be in Utah, and there was no changing my mind.
Yeah.
I was not going to go anywhere else. And
why was that?
Just because growing up in Southern California, my hometown is a really small town right outside of San Diego, and it was like super anti-Mormon.
Okay.
Like everyone there was super great. It was like an awesome tight-knit community and everything like that. But like for whatever reason, people just like did not like the Mormons. And so for me, I was like, I just like desperately want to be somewhere surrounded by other, LDS people. And I knew I was going to serve a mission, and I wanted to just like jump right into dating and within that culture, and stuff. And so I just felt like it was just going to be so much better and easier to be surrounded by like-minded people. And that to me was Utah. And I have family here and stuff. And I'm born and raised a Utah Ute fan, and I would have gone there, but they don't have men's track.
Oh,
shout out Title IX.
I didn't even know that actually.
Yeah, no. So they have girls track, but they don't have men's track.
Oh,
which is okay. They have like
blew my mind. That's
other
crazy.
Sports and stuff. I think they have like wrestling and Utah State.
I'm glad you came to Utah State.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, I ended up at Utah State and never expected to be there, but it was a huge blessing in disguise.
You were the face of like Utah State sports. Like for like anywhere there was a party or anyone representing sports or any spirit at any game, Bannon was front and center.
Oh my gosh.
Like you were the kid everybody knew who you were.
Thank you.
Which I'm like,
that makes me sound like
no.
That makes me sound up here. I'm really not.
You were, but also it was cool because you were always really inclusive the whole time too. Like everyone knew who you were, and it was like Bannon is my friend.
Well, I think that coming from so many groups, I mean, I was an athlete, and then I also was in a fraternity, and then I was also, super involved within the school things like spirit things or whatever. And just the community. So I feel like I've always been someone that likes to combine groups and stuff. And I have friends here, and I always just want everyone to feel welcome. So anyways, I would just, try to bring people together as much as I could, but I was way too exhausted in college. I had way too much on my plate.
Probably not enough sleep.
Never enough sleep.
Yeah.
My roommates never saw me. They would call me the ghost roommate because I was truly never there.
That's funny.
But I would have it no other way. It was super fun and got way involved and met tons of people and just took advantage of every opportunity, really. That to me was college. And as exhausting as it was, I feel like it led to a lot.
Yeah. No. And like, if there's ever a time you're going to do it, I remember so many of my teammates and roommates saying like, well, you can sleep when you're dead.
No,
like
for sure.
The college mentality. And you're just like, okay. You're just exhausted all the time.
Especially as a student athlete, because you really do have so much going on.
Yeah.
So
it's really quite strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons that, I'm so excited to talk to you a little bit today is I think life comes at you in really unexpected, hard, weird ways sometimes. So can you take us back to that season after college of your life when you decided to move out to Arizona?
Yeah. So it was the summer of 2021. And so we had a year of COVID. But
that was weird. We didn't walk. We didn't graduate.
So lame.
So weird.
Right?
Yeah. They literally sent our diplomas in the mail and there was like that paper confetti and they're like, yeah, you graduated.
Like,
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just worked so hard for that.
Yeah.
It's fine. Anyway, so yeah, we had a year of COVID and things were normalizing again, but they were definitely still really weird. Like things were weird with flights and like masks and things were shut down. And, we were about to go back into the fall semester and I had just gotten done with my first semester of my master's program, but everything got moved online and I was not stoked about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I already struggle with school as it is. I don't want like a program where I'm going to have to like talk to bots online and stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
And randomly this opportunity came to me where one of my best friends, his father-in-law had a job opportunity open up in Arizona. It was a operations manager at an Amazon warehouse. And he called me and he's like, bro, I got a job for you. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm starting my master's. Like, I'm not going to do that. And he was like, how serious are you about your master's? And I was like, pretty serious. Like I studied really hard to be here.
You don't just casually get into a master's program. Yeah,
exactly. And I already done like a semester and stuff. So anyway, he talked to me about it and he was like, just think on it. Just think on it. I think you'd be the perfect match for this. And I'm like, okay, not going to happen. So anyways, I thought more about it. And the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, let me just like consider this option really quick. Let me have an interview with this guy and like see what's on the table. So I had an interview with him. It went super great. Right after the interview, I remember getting like straight onto my knees and I was like, Heavenly Father, I do not want to go. Like, tell me I shouldn't go.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell me that. And I actually felt quite the opposite. I was like, oh, freaking A, I have to leave. And I was not stoked about that, but I just knew in my heart that like, this is the better option for me. And I can always go back to school.
Yeah.
So I took the job and I was like excited about it for the reason of like, this is going to be a great way to build my career. And if I go back to school, this will be great for my master's because now I'll have real life experience to work with versus like just coming from college right into a master's and, still playing around with scenarios and stuff. So moved to Arizona. It was September 2nd and it was 112 degrees in Arizona.
Okay.
My first day.
Love Arizona.
And I remember being like, I fully regret this.
Like, what did I do?
I was like, maybe I did not get an answer to my prayers to come out here. Like, this isn't right. I'm not meant for this.
Yeah.
And so I just jumped right into it. And I remember just being so hot and I was just like, well, this is my new life, whatever. Basically what I did was, again, I was a manager at an Amazon warehouse. And so I was in charge of like anywhere between 70 to 120 employees at a time.
Oh, wow.
All delivery drivers, just strictly delivery drivers. And it was like a third party for Amazon. So you technically work for Amazon, but you are a third party affiliate. So it's a weird scenario. Anyways, I remember my first like 3 months, I was just like, I'm this young 25-year-old. I have everything to prove because I'm really truly underqualified for this. And so I was just a workaholic and I had nothing better to do because nothing was open, especially in Arizona. It was like pretty strict. In Utah, it was like a little bit like less crazy, but in Arizona, like you couldn't sit next to someone at church unless you roomed with them.
Oh, wow.
There was no like YSA events going on. There was just no way to meet anyone. And like, how do you meet people when there's nothing to go to? You know what I mean? Like if you don't already have friends that are like, doing game nights or something like that, how do you meet people? And so it was a very lonely time in my life. And so going from this crazy, like Bannon lifestyle in college of like constantly having something every single day, being involved here, being involved there, to all of a sudden, my only thing I have in my life is like my job, which was like crazy and stressful and stuff and not super fun, you know? And so it was like 3 months of that. And
I'm sure that was heightened a lot by COVID, obviously, right? But I think that's a weird flip that people tend to go through when life transitions really dramatically, like even from high school to college and then college to being a working professional.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a weird switch because you get so in the swing of one routine. And I think that's what's so strange about like your 20s and your 30s, even like getting married. Like whenever you start a new job, you pivot majors, like you get so comfortable and then you have to basically be okay being in this like really unknown, weird territory. Yeah, exactly. And it's so strange.
Yeah. And especially when like you leave behind friends that are still in college and you see their Instagram stories and like you see the things that they're doing and all of a sudden all that like FOMO kicks in and you're like, crap, like,
what am I doing?
I want to be there. It's like my best friends would be calling me and they'd be like, oh my gosh, dude, like this happened, but like, how's your life? And I'd be like, my life freaking sucks right now, you know?
Like I go to work every day. So
and my like roommate situation was really weird. So anyways, it was tough because I am such a social person and I kind of just feed off of people's energy and stuff. And when I don't have that, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself. And so work really was my life. But I had one person in particular that I would see every single day. His name was Dan. He was my basically my right-hand man. And he was a dispatcher. And so like what that kind of means to sum it up is I was in charge of like all the logistics and stuff, and he would be in charge of like the logistics of the mail being delivered essentially. And so he really truly was my right-hand man. And he would be in the office with me every day. And so because of that, and because I'm such a naturally social person, I would just like crave Dan every day. He'd walk in and I'd be like, Dan, tell me about your weekend. And like, you know, and stuff. And he was the most painfully shy person. Like sometimes talking to a wall, like it would be so hard to get things out of Dan because he was just so shy.
Yeah.
Here and there, you would see a little bit more of his personality to come out. And finally he would warm up to me a bit and he would actually like ask me how my weekend was. And like, he would tell me things and I'd be like, I'm getting through to him. And I told him the first like couple conversations I had with him, I was like, you know, you're like this little shell, but like, you're going to come out. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to peel back those onions.
No shot.
Yeah. And he was like, okay, for sure.
Yeah.
And I did. And we started to just have like a really good, like bro connection type thing, but like friendly coworker thing that was like, sometimes we would be in like these big turmoil, you know, situations where we're trying to solve work problems. And then other times we'd be talking about, you know, politics, or we'd be talking about guns, or we'd be talking about like sports and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it was just like a fun dynamic situation. Anyways, during this course of our relationship, when we started to just, become more close of friends and things like that, I would start to invite him to different things because I would start to have a couple of other friends that I had made outside and stuff. And I'd be like, Dan, come to this with us. Or, you know, he would ask me questions about like my life, and he realized that I was LDS, and he'd be like, so like you're Mormon. And I'd be like, I knew we were eventually going to get across to this, like, you know, and he'd be like, so like, what's the sitch with coffee? And like, just those typical questions.
Yes.
And we would have like these fun discussions. And I always knew like I am the type of missionary, quote unquote, where like, I'm not a weird person, and like I can present the gospel to someone in like a fun way. But I was also concerned of like, I don't want him to ever feel like I'm trying to be this like stereotypical Mormon that's like trying to convert you type of thing.
Yeah.
Not the case at all, but I was just worried of that. And so took my time with like gospel discussions. And anytime he would ask, I would answer, and we'd have good discussions, but I wouldn't like try to press it beyond that.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where he was asking so many things that I was like, this guy's ready. Like he truly is ready to to learn a little bit more about the gospel and stuff. And whether he decides to get baptized or something doesn't matter, but like at least he can understand more about us, which I think is great because, everyone should know more about religions, regardless if they join the religion or not. So I remember calling my friend Garrett, who was my friend that got me the job, and he knew Dan well too. And I was like, bro, Garrett, I just had this great conversation with Dan, and like, I'm going to write my testimony in a Book of Mormon to him, and I'm going to give it to him, and I want you to write your testimony too. And like, we'll see what comes of it.
That's the
and I was like, we're going to get this guy wet. We're going to dunk him in the baptisms of water. And we're just like joking like that. Right.
Yeah.
But not being super serious about it. Anyways, that was like my intention for, the next couple of weeks, but just kind of never got around to it yet. And it was the end of February, and I kind of just had been procrastinating it, thought about it here and there and stuff, but never really got around to it. And then it was a Friday night, super late, probably like 11:30 at night. And the weekend dispatcher, who was Dan's job on the weekends, he gives me a call, and I was like, great, this cannot be good because A, I'm off, B, it's like super late at night and no one should be working at this point.
Yeah.
And he calls me, and his name's Larry, and he's like, hey, Bannon, are you ready for what I'm about to tell you? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, great, someone got in like a bad crash or like something work related, right? And he was like, Dan took his own life tonight. And I remember just feeling honestly exactly how I feel right now, just tingles up my whole body and being in complete disbelief, because we're going off of like this great week together and, having all these great discussions in the office together amongst all the work that we're doing and stuff. And all of a sudden he's gone. Like, what? And so I was just so taken aback, and I was like, what? Yeah, it's so hard to accept. And I remember just getting the details from him. It was like one of those times in the movies where it's kind of just like everything falls silent and everything goes kind of to a blur. There was people at my house and stuff, couldn't tell you who was there, couldn't tell you what was going on. I just remember walking outside, and I called our boss, the owner of the company, Matt. And I remember just being so emotional, but trying to keep so composed just because of my, leadership in the company. I needed to. And I called him, gave him all the details, and he was obviously distraught as well. And he was out of state at the time. And so he was like, I'll be on the next flight I can get on in the morning. The next morning I had to tell the entire company, and not very many people had known yet. I was a wreck. And so they were obviously like, what's going on? And having to tell my employees that was probably one of the hardest things I'd ever had to do, because this man was loved by the whole company. He's someone that you see every single day. You're someone that you check in with every single day, right? And he's more than just, an employee or someone that you report to and stuff like that. And his life is now gone. And so those next couple weeks were a combination of, I don't even really know how to put it into words. It's just like, again, the disbelief. You go back to every single conversation and you're like, did I miss something? Could I have done something? Could I have said something that would have impacted him to not do that? Or did I do something or say something that did impact him to do that? And we just go through every single conversation and relive everything that was ever said to each other, because how can you not?
Yeah.
And I remember having nightmares like for weeks, and I'd wake up and in my nightmare, like something would happen, and then I'd wake up and be like, okay, everything's fine. And then the realization would come back, and no, Dan's really gone. And so dealing with that for the first time. I had never dealt with real loss, honestly, in my life, thankfully, up to this point. And I had never dealt with someone, with suicide. And so not having a background of that was really tough because what do you do? And also I was so alone. And also this was one of my only friends. And so I had probably the most, I guess you would say, like, up and down 6 months, because up into that 6-month period of my time being there, again, he was like one of my only friends. And at that time I had considered him one of my best friends. And going into the office the next Monday and not seeing Dan there and just seeing his empty seat there.
Wild. Yeah.
Oh, the worst feeling.
Yeah.
And so what can you do? But
grief is crazy that way, where I feel like it's something that, like as you get older, you're like, I'm going to obviously face loss and grief at like some point in my life. That's just the nature of loving people. But I think that what's so crazy about that situation, it just is how like unexpected it was, and how, I don't know, there's like, it's also very unique responsibility that you had to like communicate that loss to a lot of people. And the whole like what if scenario that you're doing in your head, like, did I miss something in those conversations? I think that is one of the hardest parts about grief, is like you go back and you replay literally everything that you could have said or done, or things that you miss. And it's just like, obviously it's not fair to yourself to do that. But I had a therapist tell me that like grief one time, she's like, we all was making a comparison, like comparing us to Tupperware. She's like, you can have lots of different shapes and sizes, but grief is like a gas, and it fills the space no matter what. And it's like, could be different and unique for every person. But just because the grief looks different for one person or the other, like it still like fills up the whole space.
Yeah. And it's hard, again, when you're dealing with certain grief for the first time, because you don't really know what to do or who to turn to. And honestly, in my life, like my family dynamic and situation and stuff, like we kind of just suppress our emotions, and it's like emotions are weakness, and especially if you're a man, like just suck it up and deal with it type of thing.
Yeah.
And while I think there's a time and place for that, I think that can also be really toxic and unhealthy as well.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be more conversation about, especially males, dealing with grief and having that be okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying you necessarily, like, not everyone needs to go to therapy. I've never gone to therapy. I'm sure it's great and could do great things for me, but being able to like do something about that grief, I think, is super important, because I truly, I remember having a conversation with my mom after it happened, and I remember being on the freeway driving home, and she had called me and I told her that it happened, and she was kind of like, oh, wow, like that's horrible, obviously. But I don't think she really quite knew how close I was to Dan and how much it really was affecting me. And I remember fighting back so many tears and trying not to sound like I was crying, even though I was.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to stay strong.
Yeah.
But like, stay strong for who? It's your mom.
Yeah.
Cry to your mom.
Yes. Yes.
And those emotions, like the emotions I feel right now, they're all coming back to me. And it's just like, I wish that I would have given myself some grace and like cried more and been able to mourn. And I think that I just tried so hard to skip past the mourning phase.
Yeah.
Because things needed to be done, and I needed to be this strong, authoritative figure that was able to be a leader. And I think that a part of leadership is showing emotion and, being able to deal with things the correct way.
Absolutely. I think that is definitely not talked about enough either, where it's like you're allowed, like, because I think a lot of people, I get in this mindset a lot where it's like, man, if I ever deal with grief and loss again, I hope I'm in a really awesome place in my life so I can deal with it the best way possible. And you're just not always in control of that. And you were arguably at one of the hardest times of your life when this occurred. And I think it's so important, like whatever gender you are, whatever age you are, being able to allow yourself some grace and space to just feel it. The payoff of allowing yourself to feel those emotions, like that's only serving you to allow yourself to do that, And it's this really weird construct we have in society. I think it's why a lot of us struggle in our 20s not hitting these like abstract milestones that we think we're supposed to hit at certain ages. And it's the same thing with like feeling emotions as a man. And I think even like your upbringing, I know my upbringing, it was like I could only really talk to my mom about my emotions and not my dad. And it's just like we build these really strange social constructs when it's just like you're allowed to cry to your mom in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
So feeling emotions, what were some of the other things that you feel like at this time that kind of helped you like process or move through?
I would say like my only saving grace at this point was probably my relationship with God.
Yeah.
I have always had a really great relationship with God and understanding that he's there and he loves me, he's listening to me, you know? And so that strengthened even more, which was awesome. But I just remember being like, God, I don't know why this happened and this like really sucks and I'm so lonely.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be one of those people that like calls my friends and family and is like, I'm so depressed, I'm so lonely and stuff, even though that would have totally been fine. But I just am not that type of person. And
yeah.
So I remember just being like, I am by myself on this. Like, I really truly don't have any other friends. I had Garrett, but he's married and he didn't live close to me and stuff. And so really I had no one. And my one friend had just, of course, you know, passed away. And so I was like, please, please help me to figure out my life right now and like give me something.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, a week later, I ended up, so I was a groomsman in my cousin's wedding with someone who ended up becoming my next roommate, who became my best friend in Arizona. And because of this individual, Mikey, he introduced me to all these other individuals who then all of a sudden it was a snowball effect and I found all these friends and I found my people and I found peace finally, because I think that the next couple of months after Dan's death, I just really didn't know what to do with myself. And I was just so wrapped up in consuming thoughts and again, replaying conversations, and it was just not healthy and I didn't have any outlets. But then I feel like God really did answer my prayers and he knew that I was very much alone and someone that's like as social as me, that's a big no-no. And so he provided the people that I needed in my life. And I think it taught me that there's phases in life too. So like maybe a big reason why I needed to go to Arizona, why I felt like I needed to go to Arizona, was because I needed to have that phase of life that had Dan in it, because that was so impactful and it's taught me so much and it's opened my eyes so much to things. And then I needed to have the phase of life of having my Arizona friends and like, you know, the things that taught me and the relationships I was able to have with those people and stuff. Right. And now I'm in my new phase back here in Utah and, you know, trying to figure out what the heck to do with my life and trying to get married and like all those type of things. Right. I think phases of life are very beautiful and important and they teach you so much.
Yeah. I love that. I think one thing, like I remember a lot like that when you say you went into work on Monday and like not seeing Dan in his chair. Remember like it was like a day or two after my dad passed away and I came in my mom's house and my dad was like often sitting in his office, like just working. And I remember like turning and looking in there and like seeing the chair and realizing like, oh, I'm never going to see like my dad there anymore. And it's like a really surreal, strange moment. And I think that, you know, whether it's like the loss or like the death of someone that we're talking about, or even like a divorce or a breakup, like when you're in that phase of like it's shock and it's so much grief, it's almost overwhelming. Like, how did you move through each day, find like the motivation and the strength to move through each day until things got better?
I actually remember having a conversation with myself and being like so sad and devastated still, but being like, you know what? Dan is honestly probably where he needs to be right now. I don't know what demons he had. I really truly did not see any of the signs. But for whatever reason, he did it, and there's nothing I can do about that now. Yeah. And if I just sit here and keep being sad, it's not going to have any great impact or, you know, nothing positive is going to come from that. And so instead I'm going to live my life for Dan. And remember we created some bracelets for our company and it said live life for Dan. And I remember just wearing that all the time. And it might sound cheesy or whatever, but like, it really was like, we all just would try to live life for Dan. And I remember, going on runs and like feeling his presence and being like, this one's for you, Dan. And like, you know, just having conversations with Dan too. I think that's something really beautiful, is have conversations with people that, you know, passed away, because I do feel like they are there and they can listen. And
I absolutely agree.
You know, it's a beautiful thing about death that can be, you know, something so horrible. And so, yeah, just being able to include him in my life all the time. And honestly, I think of Dan all the time. And again, it was such a short period in which we were such great friends, but it was a very impactful one. But I see him in people all the time. I see him in, you know, people, my friends, situations. I see him in myself all the time. I remember he was so anxious all the time, and he would have this weird like eating disorder probably, where like I would literally see him eat a piece of his meal and then he wouldn't touch it for an hour, and then he'd go back and he'd eat another bite and then he wouldn't touch it. And it was because he was so anxious about something happening within work and stuff. And I'd always be like, Dan, it's not that deep. Like, eat your meal, you know,
dude,
and I see that in myself sometimes when I get super anxious and caught up in a moment, and I have to like take a step back and be like, it's not that deep. Finish my meal.
Yeah.
I see it in people. I see Dan's like good side in people. He was so passionate about like politics and guns, and I think it was the Vikings. And so seeing like that passion come out of him was always so fun, because again, he's the most painfully shy person ever. And so when he actually had a personality, I'd be like, Dan, like let's have a personality and let's talk about what you're passionate about. And I see that in some people sometimes where you don't expect it, and all of a sudden they're just like quietly funny. And Dan would quietly sometimes be like, say the most hilarious things. And I'd be like, wow, like you actually are funny.
Yeah. And what I think is it's like a cliche phrase maybe, right? But it's like, treat everybody with kindness, because you never know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And I think what a beautiful thing that even though you guys were only in each other's lives for a short period of time, you obviously were such a force for good in his life.
Thank you.
And I think it's like you're living your life for Dan. Like you move forward and it's impacted the way that you see others and you treat others. And will you just speak on that a little bit?
It's so easy to like judge people or get annoyed at people or whatever, but you really truly don't know what they're going home to. It's so easy to just be like, oh, this person's okay, that person's great, or they seem like they have their life together. But again, you don't know what they're dealing with behind closed doors. And I think that's honestly the most common things nowadays with suicide is you think these people are okay and they're actually not. Or you think they have it all together and they're actually not. And so again, like I think conversations need to be had, and people need to ask people more like, how are you doing? And I have tried to implement that more in my life. Still need to be better at it and stuff, but that's one way. I also thought that I would all of a sudden just be this perfect person and this perfect missionary and like never miss an opportunity to share the gospel with people, or like, you know, never miss an opportunity to ask someone how they're doing and stuff like that. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
I think I put myself on that. I put the pressure on my shoulders of that for a long time, but you know, you're not going to be perfect, and you have your own things in your life. And so you're going to miss things. But, I think, just at the end of the day, trying to just be the best person that you can be and be there for people and showing up for people. And I think we live in this society where people are just all about self-comfort and what's best for them.
Yeah.
And then they don't show up for their friends, or they don't show up for people, and they don't go to the Friendsgiving that they were invited to, even though like the host was expecting them and wanting them. And, you know, it's devastating for them when their friends don't show up or something. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get out of that habit as a society of not showing up and being too, you know, all about me, and going to the birthday party, even though you don't want to, because it's your friend. And showing up to, you know, the baptism, even though you don't quite know that person, because you're just trying to be a good person, a good member of the community and stuff like that. Right. So whatever the case is, I just think that we need to stop being so selfish because there's a time and place to be selfish for sure. But I think our society's gotten so pro like be selfish that we have gone back and we need to be not so selfish anymore.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful. There's such power in service. There's such power in helping other people in the way that it takes you outside of yourself. I remember at one point, it wasn't very long after my dad had passed away, I was in New York City visiting a friend, and this was kind of like, we were just getting out of COVID, but it was still, pretty locked down, and lots of people were wearing masks and all the things. And me and my friend were coming up out of the subway, and we were like mid conversation, and I was telling her how much I didn't know what to do with like my grief, and I didn't know how to process it, and I felt like it was consuming me alive. And there was this mom, and I sound like the worst person ever telling this story, but there was this mom who was pushing like a baby in a stroller, and then the subway, has lots of stairs coming out of it. Me and my friend are just walking past, and I was so consumed, like in my story, talking about this really, frankly, very valid thing that I was feeling about this really hard thing that I went through. I did not even see her until my friend literally stopped me mid conversation, was like, hold on one second. And she like stopped over and helped this mom carry her stroller up all the steps of the subway. And it was this huge, like the simplest thing, but it was a huge wake up call for me, because like I try to be a very service oriented person and see the people around me. But I was like, how was I so consumed that this woman, not even 5 feet from me, she can't push a stroller up, 2 flights of stairs by herself. I didn't even see her. Jeez. And it was like, after that, I feel like I've tried a lot harder to be a lot more intentional about, no matter the phase of life you're in. It feels like that's always one thing you can control. It's just like being kind. And I love what you said, like, even if it's a birthday party you don't want to go to, you show up. Like you show up for the people in your life. The impacts of that, I think, has ripple effects that we don't even really understand all the time.
Definitely.
Yeah. And, you talk about how you've been a lot more like intentional with like including people. Have you seen any of like, I don't know, that strength in your life in any ways as you've like tried? Because you've always been really good at bringing people together. I think it's a very amazing skill that you have. Thank you. But I'm just thinking about myself, like as I feel like I'm serving, I think it benefits us and as well,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I've actually like the past couple of years, I think that I went from like hyper social to like, I'm like, wait,
you are very social,
anti-social now, but yeah. I like feel like I'm anti-social, but I'm probably not. I just don't do quite as many things anymore, but I feel like I've made them more meaningful.
That's cool.
And what I mean by that is like, instead of just trying to combine all these groups and like everyone's invited and like do all these things, right? Be more intentional with my relationships so that I can actually build deep relationships. Because when you have so many friends and when you're so social and you're doing things constantly with so many random people all the time, it's easy to be very surface level with all those relationships. Yeah. And it's harder to like really get down and dirty with the actual relationship and get on deep levels. And so I like to be more intentional with smaller groups nowadays, but like still do, fun social things and stuff. But it's been able to enable me to have greater conversations with people or harder conversations with people or like really get down deep. Which oftentimes is kind of rare in the day to day and like when you're just trying to have fun and things like that. But it's allowed me to have really great conversations with people that are struggling. And like when I'm struggling, I can open up too. Right. And some of my best, greatest relationships now are developed from those conversations. So
we talk about that a lot on this podcast. I feel like it's a theme that, persists with every guest that we're on, that sometimes it's the hard things that like, it sounds cheesy, but one of our guests called it like your superpower. Like the fact that you've been through such intense grief and have been through like really lonely, hard phases of your life. Then when someone, comes to you and is like, oh, I'm dealing with this, it equips you with this whole other toolkit of being able to, sit there and say like, oh, I understand. Yeah. I actually relate to what you're going through and like, I can empathize with you because I've been through it.
Definitely.
And then I think it serves as such a beacon to other people as well, right? They see you and it's like, okay, Bannon dealt with one of the most like shocking, traumatic losses. And like he's found a way to remember that. And it's turned into this really beautiful way of now how you like live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving forward, this is just, I think, a good like pulse check for all of us. Are there certain like signs that you look for or ways, that you feel like you can kind of cut through like the surface level, just natural thing that we have in our society to really check in and see how people are doing? Like, how do we check in with those we really love and care about and more of a like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine.
That's a great question. I think regardless, we need to do better at just checking in, even if there are no signs or there's no reason to, just because that's a good human nature type of thing to do.
Absolutely.
And those are good friends. Those are good people when people actually are genuinely concerned about you or genuinely care about you, So I think in general, we need to do that more. But secondly, going deeper into that, I think you can always tell, like there's vibes people give off. Like we just naturally are people of energy. We're these big energy balls, right? And you can see it in people's eyes sometimes, or you can feel it when you come into the room, and you can tell when people that you know well are off.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something as simple as like they had a hard conversation at work and they're annoyed, or maybe it's like someone cut them off on the way home and they have road rage still, or maybe they just dealt with something really, really horrible that they don't know how to open up about, or they're maybe not ready for it. Whatever the case, I think that we can kind of sense people's energy and their vibes, and that's the time in which we can gently ask them if they're doing okay or if they want to talk. And doing something as simple as that, I think, is great, because then at least they know that they've been recognized and that they have that offer on the table if they want to take it up and talk. But if no one ever acknowledges it, then they might not feel seen at all. And I think that's a huge human need, is to just feel seen and be heard and feel important.
Yeah.
And honestly, like thinking back to Dan, if I could ask him one question right now, if I could like be in a room with him, I would probably ask him, do you know how loved you were? And do you know how much of an impact you actually made and how missed you actually were? Because I think that's why a lot of people take their lives, is because they just like truly don't feel like they will be missed. They might not feel like they've made an impact at all, when just like they really have. But obviously it's impacted me, and it's been like 4 years, and I still think about them all the time. And so I think that maybe also in these conversations we have with people, or if we recognize someone's off, is like just to help them know that they're loved and that they would be missed if they did anything to themselves, I think that if I asked Dan right now if he would have continued on with it, I think he wouldn't have.
You talk about uplifting people, and I'm replaying so many people just in the last week that I've thought like so many things about, like, man, I'm so glad you called me, or like, I'm so glad you did that for me. And how many times I like didn't say that, like how many times I didn't tell them. Because I think that happens to us all the time. Like, I think Dan, if he was in this room right now and could hear you say that, he probably would be shocked that he like had the impact on you that he did. He probably had no idea. How can we like better like uplift those around us? Like how, like maybe it's just speaking it more. I don't know. Or maybe it's building a habit of, I think we think it all the time, when like even kindness from strangers. I think all the time, like when I walk into the gas station or the gym, if there is someone walking into the gym before me, they always will hold the door for me. And it's like such a human gesture of just kindness. And man, I just think if we were better at uplifting people and telling them how much we actually value them, like what more of like a positive space we would have.
Yeah. Or just being bold and like expressing what your thoughts are. Cause like at the grocery store all the time, like you'll see someone that's just like beautiful, like this beautiful mom that's probably like so stressed with her 4 kids and stuff like that. But like if she heard that she was like so beautiful, she'd probably be like, oh, thank you so much. Like something as little as that, or like I think we just get too in our heads and scared to tell people compliments. And if we had more compliments going around constantly, then like there'd be probably less sad people.
Yeah.
Or there'd be more confident people, which leads to less sad people.
Yeah. Because when you get complimented by a random stranger, it's always like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Like you owed me literally nothing.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, they have no other agenda than to just like make you feel good.
It's a little confidence boost.
Yes.
You're like, okay, I'm feeling myself.
Yes,
maybe I do look good today.
Maybe my hair actually does look good.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm going to try that this week. Like radical compliments to other people.
Yeah.
Like everything that you think, just say.
For sure.
Because why not?
When have you ever received a compliment that you've been like,
never.
Gross.
Literally never.
Thanks for that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's always a great thing, especially if it is just completely out of the blue.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's this weird tendency we have as human beings. We do it to ourselves all the time. Like it's just this negative self-talk to ourselves because it's like, we're just hard on ourselves, right? Yeah. But I think it's with other people and ourselves. Like what if we were just hyping each other up all the time? Like it sounds cheesy, but it's so real.
Well, and I think it's easy to be like, oh, I don't want to come off as creepy or like, I don't want them to think I'm hitting on them or something like that. But you can do it in a tasteful way. That's not weird.
Just kindness for the sake of being kind.
Exactly.
You know, you mentioned previously, like opening up to your mom in the car a little bit. Do you feel like since then it's been easier to open up to people? Because I'm curious, you know, it's like, yeah, we need to be better at asking people how they feel. I know that I can be better at that as well. But there are a lot of times that people ask me like, oh, how are you really doing? Mm-hmm. And I like want to talk about it. But for some reason, I just am like, I'm not gonna burden someone. I'm not gonna get into it. Mm-hmm. Like, what are better ways that we can, I don't know, just open up to people about how we're feeling?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think we've all been there when we've had the internal feeling and need of like, I want to be heard right now and I want to express what I'm feeling. But like, I also don't want to be that person to just like blurt it out. Like I need someone to ask me. But I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer to that necessarily. I don't know.
I know. I'm like thinking I think even one thing that's like helpful. My friend actually did this to me the other day. We were at one of our friends' birthday parties and I could tell she was like not doing well. And I just was like, hey, are you okay? She's like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Well, are you actually okay? And she just said to me, she was like, no, but like, I don't want to talk about it right now. And so then it was like later that evening, like when things were quieter, that I could ask her. And I thought that was really brave actually for her to just name it and just be like, no, because then it allows people like if Dan, right, had, and that's not his fault, but it's like sometimes in these situations, if someone would have just said like, hey, I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. It at least gives you a little bit of knowledge where you're like, okay. And I think that's, I don't know. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say you're struggling. It's okay to say you're not doing well. It's okay to tell someone like, hey, I need a friend.
Yeah. And I think it's also okay to call people out and say, hey, you're saying you're fine, but I know you're not. And when you're ready to talk about it, I'll be here.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to call you out for that because you need to get okay. And like, I want to be here for you when you do.
Yeah. Bannon, I really appreciate you like being here and opening up. I think like you're doing exactly what we're talking about right now in terms of just like having the hard conversations, sharing really vulnerable, hard things. Like you on your mom, like in the car, not being able to talk to your mom versus like you coming on this podcast and being willing to talk about it is incredible and amazing. And thank you for it.
Yeah, of course.
Any parting words of advice?
Oh, just be a good person. I think we all struggle with it because we're all going through our own things and stuff, but be a good person. Ask for help when you need to. Don't be scared to be emotional, even if you have to be this honcho man, whatever. And yeah, let's all just be the best versions of ourselves that can make other people the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. I love that. And, you know, to the person, like you guys listening, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I think this has been such a powerful episode. And if you know anyone who you think may be struggling, like please send them this episode. And if you need someone to reach out to and talk to, you can always reach out to me. I'm sure Bannon would love for you to reach out to him as well. but really grateful that you're here as always. We will include some suicide prevention resources in the description of this podcast. But as always, I'm in your corner and I'm rooting for you, and things will get better. Check in on those you love. Check in on them, even if you think they don't need to be checked on. And I agree with Bannon. Just be kind and be a good person, and it will all work out. But we will see you.
Give someone compliments.
Yes. Radical compliments. Let's all do that this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. You know what would be cute is if you could do it and you could like film people's reactions to it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
cool.
But thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next week on 20 something. That was perfect.